Pretty nice day out, huh?
Kinda wanna go outside.
I have an idea.
Let's go one-wheeling.
A one-wheel is a self-balancing electric board which many people might describe as an electric skateboard. The one-wheel does work similarly to a skateboard, except there's one big battery-powered go-kart tire in the middle instead of 4 wheels in the corners. So I'm going to be teaching you some basic tips and tricks on how to safely ride a one-wheel. So the very first thing that you need to make sure of is that you're wearing a helmet. This is absolutely necessary when you're riding a one-wheel. The next thing that you need to make sure of is that you're following any state regulations on electric boards. For example, in the state of New Jersey, riding a one-wheel is legal. Just make sure to avoid any roads where the speed limit is above 35 miles per hour or where there's pretty heavy traffic. Next, you're going to want to make sure that you're wearing skate shoes or any kind of sneakers with flat soles. This is supposed to help these sensor pads on the one wheel detect your weight shifts when you're turning. For your location, make sure that you're in a flat open area with a lot of space to move around in, like a field or a parking lot. As you get more comfortable riding the board, it'll be easier to ride in bumpy areas or places with less space. Some key parts of the board that you need to understand are the power button, the battery LED, and the front and back sensor pads. To find your riding stance, stand on the board with whatever footing seems more comfortable to you. If your right foot is on the back pad, you ride regular stance. But if you're like me and your left foot is on the back pad, then you ride goofy stance. Neither is better than the other, so pick whatever's most comfortable for you. Just make sure that your front foot covers both sides of the front pad. Okay, now we're finally going to get to riding the board. Once you're standing on the board, slightly lean forward, keeping your body weight centered over the tire. Once the board is level, it will power on and start to balance itself. Beginners might find it hard to keep balance, so it might help to hold onto a friend or a stable object like this chair I found. Now to move forward, don't look down and make sure you're looking straight ahead. Slightly lean forward and you'll start moving. A beginner should start as slow as possible to avoid losing balance. Personally, I found it easier to keep balance by slightly bending my knees. Another thing that I remembered as I was learning is to just remain calm and trust the board. When you're trying to turn, using your front foot, lean a little bit into your toes to turn in one direction, and lean a little bit into your heels to turn in the other direction. It also helps to turn your hips and shoulders in the direction you want to turn. If you want to stop, slightly lean back and the board will slow down. Continue to do this and the board will eventually stop. Once the board is completely stopped, you can dismount. When dismounting, do not simply step off the board one foot at a time. One sensor will still be active while the other isn't, so the board loses balance and you'll encounter a wheel slip, which is when the wheel runs at max speed in one direction because one sensor is still active. There are several ways to properly dismount. The easy way is to jump off with both feet at the same time. A slightly more difficult way to dismount is to take your heel off the front pad and the board will automatically turn off, so you can step off the board with your front foot first and then your back foot. Now that you know how to ride the one wheel, here are some tips to keep yourself and others safe while riding. The top speed for the one wheel Pine, which is the model that I have, is 16 miles per hour. Once you start to approach that speed, you will experience what's called pushback, which is when the front of the board lifts up to slow the rider down. If you ignore it and keep accelerating, the one wheel will automatically power off and nosedive. When a nosedive happens, the front of the board will dip into the ground, causing the rider to fall forward. When your one wheel approaches low battery, you will gradually experience more pushback. If your board runs to 0% battery while riding, it automatically powers off without slowing down. And if the rider is not aware of this, they will fall off the board. So it's important to plan out your one wheel rides and make sure that you have enough battery power for the whole trip. When riding a one wheel, it starts to feel like you're just gliding past everything, so it's easy to forget that you can hit other people or objects. So always be alert and pay attention to everything around you. Be sure to stop at stop signs and red lights and look both ways before crossing the road. So yeah, those are all the tips that I can give you on how to safely ride a one wheel. All that's left to remember is to have fun. Peace.